Biden to fire her. The buck should stop at the White House, and accountability begins at the top. I met with Director Cheadle before the oversight hearing yesterday morning in the back library, and I told her this is not personal, but this is serious business, and she needs to step aside. Since the evening of the shooting, I and all of our colleagues, all the Republicans and Democrats as well, have been demanding the answers, and they have not been forthcoming. The oversight hearing was a bust because she was unable or unwilling to provide the answers that the American people need. Although she says she's taking full responsibility, quote unquote, we know that that's clearly not true. Because of this, it necessitates a specific precision, precise and quick action by the Congress. And so while we have a number of committees of jurisdiction who have already done great work on this, they leapt right into action as you would expect they would do. I think the moment calls for something unique and different. We need to move quickly. We need to get the answers that the American people deserve. And so we are establishing a special task force in the House that will be bipartisan. It'll be composed of 7 Republicans, 6 Democrats. The composition of the committee will be persons who have expertise in the areas in question and a lot of insight about that. We'll give the list of the composition of the committee, the members, by the end of this week. But they'll have 3 primary responsibilities. We have to get the answers, of course, about what happened. We need to make sure that accountability is ensured to the American people, and then we need to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. The committee will have subpoena authority. They will begin immediately. A final report will be due from the committee no later than December 13th, but we could probably expect that there will be interim reports along the way. We have a finite set of facts and circumstances here with regard to the event last Saturday, Saturday last, but there are deeper problems, obviously, in the Secret Service, and I think this task force will be the way for us to get to the bottom of that. Finally, it's been mentioned, I'm happy to welcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for what will be his 4th address to a joint session of Congress. He will set the record, surpassing Winston Churchill as the foreign leader who has addressed Congress the most times, because we live in historic moments and because his testimony directly to Congress is so important with regard to what's happening in Israel right now. 120 hostages languish in tunnels deep in the land over there in Gaza built by Hamas. These tunnels have been, and that includes, of course, 8 Americans, and we cannot forget that. Our 2 nations are united in our common cause to bring the hostages home, and we are united to stand against our common enemies. As Iran and its proxies, including Hezbollah and the Houthis, have become increasingly hostile, they attack Israelis in the north and in Tel Aviv, we have to be clear that Israel is not alone. It has never been more important than it is right now for us to stand with our closest ally in the Middle East and our traditional partner in all these things. And it is outrageous to me and inexcusable that, as the leader mentioned, that Kamala Harris is boycotting this joint session. This is an historic moment. It's an important moment for the country for all the reasons we've said. The gravity of the situation cannot be overstated. And yet, Kamala Harris will abandon her seat. As you all know, as the Vice President and as serving as the President of the Senate, she is supposed to be seated next to me at the rostrum. She will not be there because she refuses to attend. She needs to be held accountable for that, and she needs to be asked very searing questions about why. They went down the roster to find out who else would sit in the seat. Senator Patty Murray declined the opportunity as well. She will also boycott the event, skip the speech. They landed on Senator Cardin, who is retiring from the Senate, so has little political risk. The idea that they're making political calculations when our ally is in such dire straits, fighting for its very survival and fighting back against the horrific attack in October is unconscionable to us. America's relationship with Israel has always been bipartisan, and it should stay that way. With that, I'll take a few of your questions. Yes, sir, front row.
Mr. Speaker, how did Director Cheadle react when you were faced with her in the library yesterday? And secondly, do you support efforts to impeach her?
She was very stoic, and you know, I would classify it as sort of non-responsive, just as she was in the committee hearing. She seems to almost, in some way, almost be a little bit in shock about the events, and I just find her demeanor and her responses to be inexcusable and obviously inadequate. And so that's why you see, as was noted, the Oversight Committee is rarely united as it has been, Republicans and Democrats together agreeing that this is ridiculous and that she has to go. It's rather unconscionable to us that she's not been removed. One of our colleagues filed a impeachment resolution regarding her. And impeachment, as we know, is reserved for treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors. Maladministration and utter incompetence, unfortunately, are not impeachable offenses, but there are other ways to achieve the desired end. As was noted, we have a resolution to call upon President Biden to do his job and fire her, replace her with someone who can handle the responsibilities, and I'm encouraging members to be considering those options and those alternatives, so we'll see where all that goes. Yeah, Manu.
Mr. Speaker, as Kamala Harris has become the presumptive nominee, some of your colleagues have been criticizing her over the issue of diversity. Tim Burchett said that she was a DEI hire. Is that appropriate?
Listen, this election, as I noted at the outset, is going to be about policies, not personalities. This is not personal with regard to Kamala Harris and her ethnicity or her gender. Have nothing to do with this whatsoever. This is about who can deliver for the American people and get us out of the mess that we're in. Every area of public policy is a disaster because the Biden-Harris administration made it that way. And that's what this election is about. I love that we'll have thoughtful debate going forward where the Trump-Vance ticket can present their ideas and our solutions to all this and compare it to the Biden-Harris record. That's the thing about this election cycle. Remember, both of the persons running for president now have a record. They have both served in an administration here within the last several years. So you can compare how you and your family were doing under the first Trump administration and how you and your family are doing now. That's what should be the basis of the decision, and that's why I believe we're going to have a great November. The Republican Party is going to do very well. Yes, in the back.
Speaker Johnson, you laid out the case for the geopolitical reasons why the U.S. should support Israel. But as a man of faith who's been clear about the role that plays in how you approach your job, do you also think that there's a moral or biblical rationale for the U.S. to be supporting Israel at this moment?